from the Penn libraries.
So I put together a little bit of a plan in terms of the topic I'm going to talk about today is connecting librarians to researchers and using NVivo support as a way of doing that, of having some different conversations in a library space. And my agenda is basically I want to start out with a little bit of history and context about Penn, about the work that the library does, and the way our IT support is set up. I want to describe in some detail what we're doing today. And then from there, talk a little bit about why we do what we do, because some of the things we do today have come as a result of trial and error, and we've kind of come to this point. And so then I'm going to end with just what have we learned? You know, what has supporting NVivo for the last few years taught us, and what are the new things that have come about as a result? So a little bit about history and context. I think Penn is a little bit of an unusual institution in many ways. Here's a picture of our campus. It's a decentralized urban campus. We have 12 schools, and we have a system of responsibility-centered budgets where each school really has autonomy over its own finances, over its own IT decisions. There is a loosely coordinating central body, but licensing, for example, is quite complex at Penn. The library has our own IT department. All of the large schools have their own IT departments, and NVivo licensing, for example, has to be handled within each school, which kind of leaves the library in a place which is unique in a lot of ways. We are one of the few places that everyone on campus uses, and everyone often comes to us for expensive software, such as the Adobe Suite, and NVivo definitely falls into that category. So we are already seen on campus as a place where you can find software that is more expensive, more complicated to maintain, and all of that. So that's a little bit of context. When we first began using NVivo, this became quite important to look at. So I'm going to start by opening up our library computing guide. So you can see, hopefully this will show up on the screen soon. Wait 1 second. So that didn't work. Let's go back. There we go. So just to give you a sense of the context, this is our public computer lab guide for all of Penn libraries. And you can see it's a pretty large infrastructure in terms of number of computers, locations of the computers, the types of computers provided, and we have a really extensive list of the software. So we do have NVivo for both Mac and Windows, but NVivo is just one of a large amount of software that people come to us for. Some of these things are just free things, but some of them, as I mentioned, are licensed by the library. So one of the first things we had to sort out when NVivo started to become popular at Penn is how to use our key server to manage the licenses, and also how to work with both PC and Mac software, given that they are pretty different. We also had a lot of conversations about desktop versus laptop access, because a laptop with NVivo is a whole lot more mobile, but then there's other issues in terms of the access to the key server and so on. So one of the real challenges historically has been managing the expectations and also tracking the usage. The solution we ended with was a very small number of simultaneous NVivo licenses, but NVivo is available on every computer in every library, and that took quite a long time to negotiate, to campaign for, and to kind of make the point that NVivo is now being used in so many disciplines that it really was needed as a base part of the image. And since NVivo is a complex program, adding it to the image had some real consequences in terms of the maintenance of the image and so forth. So that's a little bit on the technology piece. I also wanted to share a little bit about the history of the training piece. And this is more what I do, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this part. The first thing I would like to share with you is the way that the library supports software. Is for every workshop that we present, we create an online tutorial guide, and this is something that several librarians work on. We use SpringShare's LibGuide system as a place to put it, but really any web design platform will work fine for it. We organize the software that we support into these broad categories. NVivo is a little bit different because you can actually use it for so many different things, but we have decided to put it into the research tutorials category. But by presenting software in this way, where we are using these tags to help people look at similar software and start to understand comparing and contrasting different types of software, makes it much easier when a professor or graduate student comes to meet with us and they're trying to decide what to use. They can describe the problem at hand, and we can say, well, here's the list of tools that the library has expertise in, as well as owning licenses for, and then we can help them think through what they want to put the effort into learning. So if you look over on the right, you'll see the link to our NVivo guide. And the way we have structured these guides is they all have the same address, guides.library.upenn.edu, and then just the name of the software program, so /NVivo is our NVivo tutorial. So by creating this network, going back to my presentation of the guides, what we do is we provide a place for people to do self-paced local learning that then is augmented by the actual workshops that we provide. So we have here at the Weigel Information Commons, which is the area that I direct, we do an awful lot with technology. I can go to our October calendar, so you can start to see what our calendar of workshops looks like. And there's color coding here for the type of category of training. And so all of the NVivo workshops I think are under research. There's a small scroll bar that shows up in there. So in NVivo, you can see the user group is coming up October 20th, and I'm going to talk a bit more about that. But it starts to give campus the sense that NVivo is one of a constellation of workshops, and that the library expertise kind of fits into a larger structure. So when we first started our training for NVivo, we did not know it ourselves, so we brought in a guest presenter who was a researcher here on campus, and she came once a month and presented NVivo to us. Over time, that led us to get to know people on campus who know NVivo inside out, and they were our campus experts, and they have led to where we are today. Slowly, we built up expertise within Penn Libraries. I was the first person to kind of teach myself the software, but I have several colleagues now that are taking this on also. And because it is a complex software and also requires comfort with qualitative research methodologies, this aspect of building internal librarian expertise is not a trivial one for this particular software program. And then the last piece is probably the most complex one, which is helping researchers choose what tool to use when, which requires not only knowing NVivo, but knowing the other tools that do what NVivo does and helping people to do some comparing and contrasting. And the last piece is that we've used our blog, which is penwick.wordpress.com, and you can get to it from our homepage, to feature NVivo projects. And this has worked really well in showing people how NVivo directly helps with a criminal justice case or a public health case. We have a great example on our blog of a pressure release, which is a qualitative research project where a group of graduate students actually looked at pressure at Penn and then did an exhibit that was featured quite widely. So it brought a lot of attention to the program. So that's a little bit of history of how we got to where we're at today. I'll go to kind of quickly run through what we do today, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time on why we do it in the way that we do. This is a list of things that we do, and I can show examples as you would like. So we've just started a user group. And what we've tried to do is connect people in the library who know NVivo with people on campus who typically work in research labs who use NVivo every day, but their job is not to teach NVivo. So the idea is that we provide the teaching resources, they provide the examples, and I know one of my colleagues, Ebony, is going to be presenting with Cynthia later in the fall. So the research lab staff become part of this aspect of library work. So we do a monthly workshop on NVivo Basics. It's a 1.5-hour workshop. It strongly uses the sample data set that comes free with NVivo. It has a very strict script. It's really quite, in an hour and a half you know the basics, basically. And then we have that library guide, which I might as well spend a few minutes walking around. So this is our NVivo guide. What you'll see here is our workshop handout, which was produced by the person who first started presenting as a guest presenter. You'll see videos of the workshops we've done online. This is one about NVivo queries, and this is one about qualitative research tools that compares and contrasts 3 different tools, Atlas TI, NVivo, and something called Acclaim. Then we post specific things that people have asked us about. So we've had a lot of interest in auto coding. And on the left side, we've linked to things on our blog as well as things on the National NVivo website. We have a special tab about NVivo for literature reviews because this is the topic we presented at the last user group meeting. And our plan is to add tabs as the user group becomes more elaborate. And we are also being very careful to collect our frequently asked questions over time so that the user group gets a sense that what they care about is important. So one question that came up early is that people wanted help on NVivo, but they did not want to share their data publicly. So we began with a Canvas course that was generic to library workshops. And you can see the NVivo for literature reviews. This is a workshop that QSR conducted for us. And so we are able to share the video within Penn using our courseware system. And you'll see the note here, please do not share this with people outside Penn. But it's a place to share articles, but also to share the actual NVivo project file. So people can download the file and actually work with the real NVivo project. This led to the NVivo user group, which is a separate Canvas course just for the NVivo users. And what we have here are 2 discussion forums. My NVivo question is, where anyone who's on the user group can ask a question. And this is brand new, but we got our first question last week about the differences between Mac and PC, and one of our user group facilitators has answered the question here. But the logic behind these 2 discussion groups, one is if you need help coding, you can post in the My NVivo Opportunity Is, and if you need help using NVivo, you can post in the My NVivo Question Is. And it's a place where you can share things that may be more private, that you don't want to post onto the open guide. So back to PowerPoint. So this monthly user group is new. We started it this summer. And the idea is that there's a mini workshop, and then there's networking time, and the focus is on multiple people talking. So just the experts are not the people talking, but even beginners can talk about what they like, what they don't like. It's a time for free and open discussion. We've also tried to integrate what we do at the library with existing local training. We do have a 2-day workshop every January that is a for-fee workshop that's conducted by our Center for Public Health Initiatives, and we try to emphasize at our free events, the library events are all free, that there is a more extensive training you can go to at a fee. And that's also how when we bring in the QSR webinars. And then we have a local listserv where people can just email the group with any questions. So that's a summary of what we do. I'll talk a little bit about why we do what we do. And one thing we have found after supporting NVivo now, I think we've had about a couple of hundred people go through our workshops. It's not a small number. Like I've said, we've done it once a month for about 3 years, and really they're always full. So there's a lot of people now that we've gotten to know. We find that the challenges that we see is that the learning curve has been pretty steep, and the interface is so unfamiliar. People are comfortable with Microsoft or Adobe, and NVivo is like a third option. So the challenges that we've seen in the workshops, these are the three main ones, is that the Mac PC distinction is pretty big, the interface tends to throw people off, and people are wondering why they should invest the time in learning this software program. On the positive side are the joys. People love the visualization results. People love the fact that they can combine many people on one project. There's several people who've come and they've just had an aha moment when we go through that. And then the analysis tools are so powerful. So we have looked at these joys and these challenges, and we've tried to construct the library support so that we emphasize the joys and give people some help so that they go through the challenges. So what the user group does is it makes the learning more transparent. I can see from someone who's just slightly better than me how they use NVivo, in addition to seeing from the library staff how an expert uses the software program. Individuals get to show off pet projects, and this has been great. We've had projects from the communication school, from the medical school, from the vet school, from the dental school, and the variety of topics is so interesting. And then local ideas get to be visible. And people start to have conversations that are very discipline specific, like in my discipline, I like to code this way, but this is not acceptable. So people start to talk about qualitative research in the context of the software, and they really get into much more interesting discussions than just how to use NVivo. So just, I think, 2 more slides. What we've learned from this process of having the workshops and the user groups and the online collaboration is that having multiple voices really makes a difference. It has been a little bit hard to get people to move from I'm sitting and listening in a workshop to I have expertise and I'm networking. And there are ways that we've used, refreshments. We used a graphic facilitation template that worked great. People had to fill out a bar, and they had to mark how expert they were on NVivo, and then they had to label names of people that they like to work with. So something a little bit lighthearted has worked. The lightning round has helped a lot. This is an event we do once a year. We do a symposium for faculty, and people can stand up. And the idea of the lightning round is you have exactly 2 minutes to talk, and then you have a big gong that makes a big noise and kicks you off stage. So it's a great way to show a very small thing, and you have to really talk fast. The one thing I think we need is we really need more examples that are discipline and project specific. The one sample project has, I think, been used a bit more than it should be here, so I think we need to start developing a bit more. And then the last thing I'll say before I stop talking and turn it over to questions is that workflow seems to come up again and again. And we've been dealing much more now with more complicated questions, like how do I manage archiving, how do I manage confidentiality issues, and we're starting to get into much more policy discussions than at the beginning when it was more how do I code. So it's been very interesting to see that the relationship that we as librarians have with researchers is really getting much more substantial as the process of supporting NVivo grows over time. That's all I had planned to show. I'm happy to give you a tour of the Canvas course or talk some more about the way we use guides as you need.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I would imagine everyone is feeling envious. I know I am. Those are some really rich materials. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to open it up to everybody else first.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've put my website up so I can show you anything that you need to that's in there.
Great, great, great. I'm just going to try unmuting everybody for the moment, and we'll see if we can have an open conversation and go from there. If anybody has some questions or comments or anything you'd like to share about your own campuses as well. Okay. Let me just jump in while other people are sort of thinking. What you were talking about the user group and trying to shift from sort of workshop to networking mode, and how do you get those groups to work? I'm found to be so true in various settings, and so I was really curious to hear your specific ideas about what's worked. And I caught the lightning round. You mentioned something before that about how you matched people up who might want to work together. Can you just talk about more about both the describing the difficulty and then the ways you found around it?
I'm sure I can do that. So on the screen you can see our website. It's commons.library.upenn.edu, and right now we're featuring our annual conference. So if you click right on that light bulb, that'll take you to our conference page. This is something we do once a year, and we basically feature how to use technology to engage students. And so we do a lightning round at least once a year. This year we're doing it twice. But the way the lightning round works, I'll just scroll down to it. And you can see it's just a series of very short 2-minute talks, and we record the talks and we put them on our YouTube channel, and we emphasize that really everyone's welcome to talk. If I click on April, you can see who we featured in April. I think I did NVivo in April. But the logic is, you know, 2 simple questions, just the name of the tool, why do you like the tool, what does the tool do, and your name. And since it's only 2 minutes, people are happy to stand up and talk, and they can share whatever it is that they would like. But it's a way to bring campus together and just go from tool to tool to tool quickly. And you also have a name to go with the tool so that later on, if you decide you want to use, you know, Palladio or one of these others, you know who to ask. So we do this twice a year. We've done a variety of different formats. We used to do something called Gadget Day that was similar, where you would show off a gadget. And it's an awareness builder about the tools, and it also connects things back to the library in terms of that the library can help you with these tools. So going back to the user group, I'll actually pull up our pictures. So this is our Flickr page. And under albums, we have a new classroom here, which is a collaborative classroom, and that's what we've been using for our user group. And this is what it looks like. And what we did for the user group in the summer is you can see that there's 5 tables around this room. Let me open it up a little bigger. And each table has its own projector. So what we did is we assigned one NVivo project to each table, and the person whose project it was sat at that table with their NVivo project on a laptop. And so they could open up their NVivo project and just show off. You know, they could just walk us through their sources and their coding schemes, and people could walk from table to table. So if there was a discipline you cared about or a type of project you wanted to see, you could walk over informally to that table, get to know the researcher who was running that, and then, you know, it was an easy way to break down some of the barriers. So that is what we did over the summer to get our NVivo user group going, and I thought that worked pretty well. It certainly surfaced the idea that there were multiple voices, and there's 4 of us who are organizing the user group. There's myself and 3 people who are researchers. I'm the only library person who's a facilitator for the user group. There's several other library people who are attending. But the logic is to have the user group really represent campus and not just represent librarians.
Nice, nice. That collaborative room looks fabulous. What a great place for something like that. That's really good. And that makes sense. Just go ahead, Amod. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do you get the word out about this stuff? So you're at the lightning round kind of conferences and so on. How do you notify faculty that this is happening when they're absorbed in their own research and teaching activities within their departments?
That's actually a really good question. I think Penn is very decentralized. At the library, we have a liaison system where most of the departments on campus have one librarian that is, their part of their role as liaison. So, for example, at the nursing school, there's one librarian who, whenever at the Commons puts on these technology-related events, and so every year right before the symposium, I will ask that librarian, and she will email professors in the nursing school. And she's the nursing librarian, so she already has a relationship with them. Last year, our faculty symposium, we had 130 people from all the 12 schools, which was really, I was very happy with, because I had been at 11 schools for many years, so it's exciting to get all 12. But there's definitely a lot of physical, going out and talking to people. We do flyers, we do email. I don't think we do anything that's so innovative. We just are very systematic about it. It also has gotten easier every year. So our attendance has grown every year and people come back every year. So I think that sense that every year there will be an event, and the focus of this event is Penn people talking to Penn people. So it's kind of a peer sharing model. We do use social media. If you go to our website at the top right, you'll see how we use social media.
Thanks.
Nice,
Sure.
nice. Anybody else?
So I'm curious, what are the institutions that people are at?
I'm at Boston University.
Okay, great.
Similarly decentralized, large institution.
Yes. And we also have Case Western Reserve here and Rutgers.
Okay, well, Rutgers is right nearby.
And also decentralized, I think.
And also decentralized.
Yes.
So one thing that has helped with the decentralized environment, it might seem a little silly, but like making a logo and really working on the visual representation seems to be helpful. You can see the logo for our annual symposium if you, I'll actually show you this page. This is our main page for the event. But we've had this general theme of a light bulb, and you can see every year there's a light bulb involved. So we create a new logo, and then we do a lot in terms of getting it to be visually recognizable on campus. But it is hard. I think we're all competing over the attention of the people on our campuses.
Yes, absolutely. And could you say a little more about, and I think you'll link us to it as well, but you talked about a project that was featured on students releasing pressure.
Oh yeah, I would love to show off our blog. This is one of my favorite parts of my work is this blog. It's called Penwick. We have a lot of students and graduate students and faculty who've written for the blog. So it's penwick.wordpress.com. You can type in NVivo and you can see the posts relating to NVivo. So this first one is actually the advertisement for the webinar that QSR had done for us. And it also advertises our guide. This is a great project from a few years ago. Charlene Wong used NVivo to analyze the healthcare.gov website, and we did a little interview with her. And she talks about how she got the youth to fill out their healthcare forms, but then also how they use screen videos and then NVivo to do the analysis. And then the one that I had mentioned was called Pressure Release, and it's from a couple of years ago. You can see the lightning round upcoming, and here's Pressure Release. So this is a professor in the public health area, and this is her class. You can see her class. And they basically did an analysis of pressures on campus, and they created a visual representation that's now in our scholarly commons. So we've actually been able to archive this, and it's going to be something that can be kept in the long run. But it's a great way to show, student involvement, also in vivo, also qualitative research methodologies. This particular blog post got featured on the Penn website, so had a lot more hits than anything else we've done, but that was very exciting.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that looks really, really great. Terrific. Anybody else? Questions? So I have been recording, and if it's okay with you, Anu, and everybody else, I'd like to share this recording with the rest of the group. And I would love to, if we could share the PowerPoint. I think everybody here probably would be really anxious to see the PowerPoint as well, just to be able to go back and look at some of these links. So if we could pull all that together, I think that would be really terrific.
Sure, I can email it to you. That's easy enough.
That'd be great. Okay. And anybody have questions about anything else while we're together? And
I guess I was wondering,
yeah.
Cynthia, do you have other examples for other disciplines? I talked about how we're kind of been using that environmental study so much.
Yes, and we all do get very, very tired of it. So we have been working on pulling together some other projects. So I have one that I've been working on right now that's an assessment, has some assessment data. Actually, it's related to assessment of libraries and has some chat log data and some survey data related to that. I have pulled together a couple of other projects, one about a program evaluation project, and we have one that's related to some government sort of public comment kind of data. And we are constantly looking for those. And one of the problems in obtaining them is that they almost always involve confidential data, and it's difficult to get users to be able to release that kind of data. So we are always looking for them too. And I'd be really happy to think about ways that we might do some more outreach for that. So if you'd like to talk more about that, I'd be really open to that, and trying to find some examples that are able, where there's data that's de-identified to the extent that it can be shared, and we can help sort of build up a project further as long as somebody gets it to the point where they're able to share it. So absolutely hear the need there, and I can share with you the ones that I do have in case there's anything that might be of interest there, and then would be happy to work on coming up with some others.
Yeah, if you have one about the literature review, that would be great. I think there was a webinar I attended through QSR. I forget the person who presented, but he showed how you can get citations off of RefWorks and then put them into NVivo and use a series of queries. So I think some of that would be really helpful to have.
Yes, I think I can get you a lit review project. It might be a fairly small and simple one, but I think that would be
That's
okay
fine.
to sort of show the basics. That might have been Stuart Robertson, maybe his.
It might well have been.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yes, I can absolutely do that.
Great.
Okay, Anybody else? All right. So thank you again, Anu, for presenting. This was really helpful. And thanks everybody for coming in. We're a couple of weeks away, not that far away. October 27th is our next meeting, and that's the one about sampling through Twitter. And I expect that a lot of people will be glad that we've recorded and they, couldn't make time today, but we'll be glad to have this. So we'll look forward to coming back together again.
Great.
All right. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Cynthia.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Talk soon. Bye-bye.